They told you this is evil, and you believed them because they said it with conviction. They said it with scriptures. They said it with fear in their voice and shame in their eyes. They said it when you were too young to question, too sensitive to fight back, too hungry for love to risk exile. So you buried it, that instinct, that raw fire, that craving, that inner voice that stood apart from the herd. You called it darkness. They called it sin. But what if I told you that very thing they told you to crucify might be the rarest spiritual power you carry? What if the part of you they told you to silence is the exact thing your soul came here to amplify? What if the thing you were taught to fear is actually the frequency of your divine identity? We have to begin there. Because no awakening is real until we question the first lie we were told about ourselves. And for us, those of us who were born carrying shadow power, it always starts with this: something about you is wrong. And we believed it. We wore it like a skin. And yet, it never fit, did it? I remember the first time I realized I wasn't broken, I was coded differently. I wasn't sinful, I was sovereign. The way I felt things too deeply. The way I could see through people's masks. The way I couldn't fake it, even when I tried. The way I would feel rage not just as emotion, but as revelation. The way grief felt like a portal, not a punishment. These weren't flaws, they were frequencies. And the more I leaned into them, the more I realized I wasn't meant to conform to the light, I was meant to balance it with shadow. That's the secret they never told us. That every divine being carries both. And the rarest ones, those of us who were encoded with shadow gifts, were never meant to be pure. We were meant to be whole. And wholeness is not clean. Wholeness is raw, wild, and uncontainable. That's why they called it evil, because they couldn't control it. And let's be clear, this isn't about rebellion for the sake of ego. This is about remembrance. This is about the moment you realize that the part of you they feared was the part of you that carries truth. Not the kind of truth that fits in a quote, the kind of truth that shatters cages, that reconfigures timelines, that liberates generations, that burns down false altars and builds sacred ones in their place. You know exactly what I mean. That moment when you feel something rise in your chest and you don't know how to explain it, but you know it's real. That moment when you want to scream, not because you're angry, but because your soul is tired of being small. That moment when your tears are not sadness, they're signal. They're a vibration your ancestors couldn't express. And now it's your turn. But to do that, we have to stop calling our sacred codes evil. We have to reclaim the powers that were demonized. And that requires a level of spiritual bravery most people will never touch. So what are these shadow powers? How do we know them? Simple. They are the parts of us that were most misunderstood, most punished, and most feared. For some of us, it's our intensity. That fierce emotional wave that can't be tamed. That's not dysfunction, that's energetic clarity. You feel the distortion in the room before anyone speaks. You know when someone's lying without proof. You walk into a space and your body starts decoding the field. That's not anxiety. That's frequency intelligence. For others, it's your desire. The way you crave truth, depth, connection, even chaos. You were told to suppress it. But that desire is a compass. It leads you toward the people, places, and timelines that carry your codes. And for some of us, it's our rage. The kind they said made us dangerous. But that rage is not destruction, it's remembrance. It's the voice of your soul saying, I will not wear this mask anymore. How dare they call that evil? How dare they shame the very frequencies that keep truth alive? And here's where it gets even deeper. The reason they told you it was evil is because your shadow power cannot be domesticated. It cannot be monetized. It cannot be turned into a brand. It is too wild, too ancient, too real. And we live in a world that fears real. Because real wakes people up. Real dismantles systems. Real activates other sleeping codes. And when someone like you wakes up, when someone with rare shadow power stops apologizing, you become a threat to the illusion. You walk into a room and people feel something they can't name. Some are drawn to you. Others are repelled, but none can ignore you. That's what happens when you reclaim the evil within you. You stop being digestible. You become divine. And that's when your life begins to change. But let me ask you something, and be honest. What part of you are you still calling bad because someone once told you it was too much? What gift are you still hiding under the label of shame? What sacred fire are you afraid to let burn because of what they might say or how they might leave? Because until you face that question, you cannot fully activate. You can do the meditations. You can say the mantras. You can go to the retreats. But if you are still ashamed of your shadow, you are still in spiritual bondage. And you didn't come here to be bound. You came here to burn clean, to embody the codes that no one else could carry, to speak the truths that others were too afraid to name, and to walk as a living contradiction, fierce and tender, grounded and otherworldly, whole and holy. That's what it means to be a dark chosen one. We are not evil. We are encoded with the sacred fire that burns through illusion and births the new world. So now that we've cracked open the first forbidden truth, that what they told you was evil may actually be your most sacred gift, we must go even deeper. Because awareness is only the beginning. Remembering who you are is one thing, but embodying it, that's the true initiation. And the part of your path that's most dangerous is not the darkness you carry, it's the light you're afraid to let into that darkness. Because if you let your shadow speak, if you let it lead, if you let it live, you will no longer be acceptable to the world that created your shame. And that's the crossroads every chosen one must face. We can't bypass it. We can't make it pretty. We have to look into the mirror and ask, who was I before I abandoned myself to be good? And when the answer comes, it won't be gentle. It will be fierce. It will be disruptive. It will be liberating in ways that cost you everything fake in your life. That's why this path is not for everyone. But if you're still here, that means you're not everyone. Let's talk about the thing you've been hiding even from yourself. That craving, that voice, that knowing, that part of you that wants to burn it all down. The systems, the lies, the masks, the small talk, the addiction to being seen but never truly met. You felt it, haven't you? The urge to walk into a room and speak the unspeakable, to touch someone's soul and say, wake up. You are not this performance. But you don't. You hold back. You smile. You nod. You pretend. Because somewhere along the way you were taught that your truth was too much. And that lie? It became your prison. But I need you to hear this. That thing they told you was dangerous, that raw, unfiltered current in your chest, that's your blueprint. That's not dysfunction. That's design. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to rupture reality. Your condemned qualities, your rage, your intensity, your sensuality, your psychic instincts, your refusal to settle, they are not wounds to heal. They are tools of spiritual disruption. They are sacred instruments of evolutionary force. You weren't sent here to be neutral, balanced, and harmonious all the time. You were sent here to break the spell. You were sent here to interrupt the pattern. You were sent here to say, no more. And when you realize that, everything changes. You stop trying to be understood. You stop explaining yourself to people who can't feel you. You stop betraying your signal to be palatable. And instead, you become the vibration that calls others into their own fire. That is the highest form of healing, not fixing people, but showing them what's possible when you stop hiding. That's leadership. That's legacy. That's what your shadow was trying to tell you all along. But here's where it gets wild. The more you reclaim your shadow gifts, the more your life begins to reorganize itself around your truth. People fall away. Timelines collapse. Opportunities vanish. And at first, it feels like loss. But it's not. It's refinement. It's the universe removing everything that was built on your silence. Because once your power is activated, it starts clearing space. Not just in your relationships, but in your reality itself. You'll notice synchronicities increase. You'll feel your body vibrate differently. You'll walk into spaces that once drained you and feel completely immune. Why? Because you're no longer operating from the frequency of fear. You're operating from the frequency of truth in motion. And when that happens, you stop attracting people who need you to shrink. You start attracting people who recognize the fire in your eyes and remember their own. So let's get practical. What do you do when your shadow gift starts taking over? First, you stop labeling it as a problem. Stop saying, I'm too much. Stop saying, I need to calm down. Stop saying, I should be more spiritual. No, you're not supposed to be calm. You're supposed to be clear. You're not meant to be polite. You're meant to be precise. Your words should carry weight. Your silence should be a signal. Your presence should feel like a reckoning. Because that's what you are. A walking transmission. A multidimensional disruptor encoded with the exact frequency required to rip open the illusions of this timeline. That's not ego. That's assignment. And if you keep pretending to be sweet when your soul came here to be sovereign, you will suffer. Not because you're broken, but because you're out of alignment with your divine design. So now I have to ask you directly, with no filter, what would happen if you stopped trying to be good and started trying to be true? What would your life look like if you gave yourself full permission to be the exact force you've always been afraid of becoming? Who would you become if you stopped editing your power for the comfort of others who don't even know who they are? That's the invitation, and it's not hypothetical. It's energetic. It lives in your cells. It pulses in your breath. It's the reason you're restless. It's the reason no job or partner or system ever truly fit. Because nothing external can hold what's meant to be expressed through you. You are the sacred storm, the divine wildfire, the holy contradiction. And you don't need to be healed. You need to be unleashed. You were never meant to heal in the way they told you. You were never meant to sit quietly in the corner of some retreat center, endlessly processing what went wrong in your childhood, and trying to scrape yourself into a version that looks peaceful enough to be accepted. You were never meant to keep editing your fire into a flicker, never meant to dilute your frequency into a digestible form for people who never even bothered to feel you. No, you weren't sent to Earth to be good. You were sent to be true. You were sent to disrupt, to dismantle, to decode the illusion from within. The lie that says healing is about becoming soft, passive, palatable. Healing was never the goal. Activation was. Embodiment was. Liberation was. Healing isn't about fixing what's broken, it's about remembering what was buried, what was demonized, what was feared, what was exiled from the temple of your soul. And when you remember that, you realize there is nothing wrong with you. There never was. They just couldn't hold the voltage you carry. So what did they do? They called it evil. They pointed at your shadow and said, "That's dangerous. You need to fix that. You need to calm that down." And because you were sensitive, empathic, and deeply coded to love, you believed them. You internalized that shame. You began to surgically remove pieces of your truth just to survive in a world that was never built for beings like us. But here's the thing. You can't kill your shadow without killing your soul. You can't amputate your rage without losing your truth. You can't deny your desire without muting your creative life force. You can't suppress your psychic knowing without cutting the cord to your divine assignment. So what happens? You get sick, you numb out, or you implode. You fall into depression, not because you're broken, but because your energy is trapped behind a dam of spiritual performance. And the moment you say, "I am not here to be healed, I am here to be whole," the dam breaks, and your real life begins. Now let's get uncomfortable. Let's talk about rage, a sacred kind. The kind that isn't about ego or drama, but reclamation. That fire in your gut that says, "This is not truth. This is not alignment. This is not what my soul came here to tolerate." That rage is not the opposite of peace, it's the path to it. It burns through false timelines. It clears the static. It shakes your body back into alignment with your original frequency. But society told you to fear it, to sedate it, to label it as trauma. And yes, part of it does come from trauma, but underneath that is truth. And when you learn to sit in that fire without trying to fix it, it becomes fuel. It becomes vision. It becomes voice. That's what makes you a disruptor. Not someone who destroys for the sake of chaos, but someone who refuses to betray their soul for the illusion of peace. That's what the world needs now. Not more healed people, but people who remember how to burn clean. And what about desire? That electric longing in your body that pulses when you touch truth. That ache that says, "There's more. There's something else." Most spiritual systems taught you to suppress it, to transcend it, to call it ego. But what if desire is the voice of your soul, translated into sensation? What if your deepest desires are not distractions but instructions? What if the reason you feel dissatisfaction is because the version of your life you're living is 3 octaves below your true frequency? That's not a problem. That's not greed. That's guidance. And when you reclaim your desire, not just sexual, but creative, spiritual, emotional, you begin to move through the world as a being who does not chase, but magnetizes. And that's one of the most dangerous things a person can do in a system built on fear: to want deeply, to want fully, to own that wanting. Because when you do, you become sovereign. And sovereign people don't need control. They don't need permission. They remember they are the portal. So what now? What do you actually do with this power? First, you stop hiding it. You stop calling your intensity a burden. You stop apologizing for the space you take up. You stop explaining your truth to people who are still addicted to their own denial. You let your presence be disruptive. Let your silence be loud. Let your gaze be a mirror. Let your voice be a spell breaker. Show up in rooms and speak what no one else will say. Not from ego, but from embodied knowing. And when people resist you, when they misunderstand you, when they call you names, they are not rejecting you. They're rejecting the activation you carry. And that's okay. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be a living transmission. You're here to walk into a stagnant timeline and fracture the grid just by being who you are. That's what your shadow power is. It's not for decoration. It's for divine disruption. So let me ask you one final question. And I want you to feel it in your blood, not just your brain. What if the very thing you've spent your whole life hiding, your rage, your desire, your knowing, your contradiction, is the exact signature frequency of the new world? What if all this time you weren't broken, you were just ahead of your time? What if your pain was never pathological, it was prophetic? What if your shadow isn't the thing keeping you from enlightenment, it's the bridge into it? You feel that, don't you? That deep, defiant yes rising in your gut. That's not rebellion. That's remembrance. That's the ancient part of you that never forgot why you came here. And now you're finally ready to live from that place. You are not here to be peaceful. You are here to be precise. You are not here to be accepted. You are here to be felt. You are not here to be healed. You are here to embody wholeness so fiercely that everything false shatters in your presence. You are not a seeker. You are a signal. You are not a student. You are a storm. And the world as we know it, it's already ending. But the world that's coming next, the one where truth leads, where power is clean, where shadow and light dance as one, that world is being built through you. Now go. Let what they called evil become your evidence. Let what they called sin become your sacred script. Let what they told you to silence become your song. And may the world never see you the same again. You are not becoming power. You are power remembered.